The global warming issue is an environmental issue, but obviously an economic issue as well. It can have huge implications right away if the predictions are anywhere near accurate about the rising level of the oceans and what it could mean in these areas like the coastal areas of North and South Carolina, where those marshlands, we have some of them as well, but probably somewhat protected along Island Sound, I suspect, in Connecticut. So to me, there are things, this ought not to be a hair shirt in a sense. I mean, I think there are decisions we can make. I'm a supporter of legislation that would require us by the year 2020 to reach the 1990 levels of particulates in the environment that contribute to that greenhouse effect that are causing, I believe, without any question whatsoever, the kind of climate change that we're witnessing here. We're 1 degree per year. We've gone through the warmest 10 years, 8 out of the 10 years in the history, recorded history of temperatures in the world. So clearly the evidence is there. I hope we're beyond that point. I hear some of my colleagues question it still as to whether or not this is a reality. So we need to be moving more aggressively. And again, this is national leadership in my view. And this state obviously wrestles with coal. We in Connecticut have a different energy source, but the energy issues, the economic issues are deeply linked. And I'm a strong believer that we ought to be moving aggressively away from our dependency on non-renewable sources of energy. There's coal that can be used with liquefaction that is far less harmful than the present use that we have of it, and causing the kind of environmental issues, not to mention health issues and the like that are affecting us. And I would tell you that, look, if I'm standing on the west front of the Capitol on January 20th, 2009, I'm going to challenge the country to be totally independent of the Persian Gulf of energy resources in 10 years. And I think it can be done. That doesn't mean we're independent of Mexico or Canada and other places, but the idea that we depend upon a line of tankers passing through a 34-mile strait of Hormuz for our economic and national security dependency, I think is something we ought to rally the country around. We start doing the things that need to be doing. So the alternatives are clearly there. I'm told by knowledgeable people that you could reduce our dependency on foreign product almost immediately by 4 million barrels a day by doing 3 or 4 things. Conservation without breaking our backs. Give you the idea, United Technologies Corporation, the largest corporation in my state, obviously the Pratt Whitney, Sikorsky helicopters, Carrier air conditioning and the like, they have reduced their energy consumption by 20% as that company's growth has occurred. I think something in the neighborhood of 20% over the same period of time. And George David, the CEO, will tell you that they did it just by looking at bottom line issues, without getting into sort of exotic technologies to be able to reduce their cost. So conservation can save you 1 million barrels a day. Utilizing the solar, the wind, the geothermal issues and so forth, looking in the Midwest maybe to your ethanol or biofuels, looking at other parts of the country for means they can use, not one size fits all, but coming up with different alternatives that can really make a difference is something will save us, I'm told, about 1 million barrels a day. The fuel cells, I know many of you working here, as we are in Connecticut, can make a huge difference. And then you're going to have to do something with dealing with grids. And my view is the liquefaction of coal is one way to look at this, far less of a problem than how we presently burn that fuel. And look, nuclear is something we need to be examining as well here. And we need to get over the problem of not focusing our attention on dealing with the legitimate issues of waste, how you store it, how you deal with it. But I believe that international consortiums on this issue could really help us break through a lot of this. Look what China is going through today. They're shopping all over the world for energy resources here, putting a lot of pressure on non-renewable resources. They have a strong interest economically, utilizing the growing intellectual capacity in that country, working together as developing countries would appreciate an energy source that is renewable, that can reduce the kind of problems you've raised with your question here. So we need to get going on this again sooner rather than later. I think this year we're going to have a chance, for the first time in years, to actually have some hearings and maybe with some legislation that'll move us in that direction. Obviously, fuel efficiency standards in automobiles, I should mention as well, is a major area. I drive a hybrid here. It's not as great as you might think. It does better in the cities than it does on the open roads in terms of fuel efficiency, but they're getting there and it's moving along. We need to convince the American public to be a part of this. I think you can. Yes, sir.